Champions Classic was held last night inside State Farm Arena, downtown Atlanta, doubleheader featuring 4 monster programs. We'll start with the nightcap. Terrific game. Final score, Kentucky 77, Duke 72. Mark Pope's Wildcats overcame a 10-point deficit, not to mention a talent deficit, en route to upsetting Cooper Flagg and the Blue Devils. Cooper Flagg, he, of course, is the projected number 1 overall pick, 2025 NBA draft, was mostly terrific, 26 points, 12 rebounds at the age of 17 in the Champions Classic. That's incredible, but he did turn it over twice in the final 15 seconds of a one-possession game, and then he got pushed under the goal by Otega-Owe in the final 10 seconds, which resulted in an offensive rebound on a Kentucky missed free throw with 5.1 seconds remaining, and that, as they say, was that. Congrats to Mark Pope. First signature victory as coach of his alma mater. That's always fun. Norlander, I know you had your eyes on it. Your thoughts, please.
No doubt about it. Good morning. That was a heck of a nightcap there with the Champions Classic. First game had its warts, no doubt about it. We'll get to Kansas and Michigan State after the break in just a little bit. But one of those games where, because it was just so exciting and really thrilling, a little bit hard for me to fall asleep last night. I was pretty jacked up after this performance there. You mentioned he had Flagg had the 2 turnovers down the stretch. He did, and he actually had 3 in the final 2 minutes after not having any before that. You got a little bit of everything, and this is part of the college experience. I was down in Durham last month and got to see Duke practice, sat down with staff, sat down with Shire, and the one thing both Shire and Chris Carrawell and Jay Lucas and talking to all of them said he's going to be really good talking Flagg, but he's going to have bumps. There are going to be learning moments. This is not going to be a perfect year. And I thought Tuesday night encapsulated a lot of that. If not for Cooper Flagg, Kentucky would have won this game much more easily. Cooper Flagg had some tremendous plays down the stretch and really composed himself relatively well. In fact, I would argue until the crucial moments when it meant a lot, and whether he should have been the guy to have the game put on his back. I guess we can debate that if you want, but there's a variety of factors there. He really came into his own in the second half after, he didn't shoot particularly well for the first 30 minutes of the game. He finished 9 of 19 from the field. But on the whole, he was the most impactful and important and best player on the floor in a really, really good game. Credit to Otega-Owe, who had 15 points, a variety of really important plays down the stretch. Obviously, he forced the turnover on Flagg. He's the one that got the board. He got the foul shots to clinch it there, and good on Kentucky. So a fantastic game. Like, we've had a couple of games here in the first 8-9 days of the season. You go to the Carolina-Kansas game on Friday, the Auburn-Houston game, which was tremendous on Saturday, and then you get this. So we've had 3 games that were highly anticipated going in, and they certainly met the billing, without a doubt, no question about it. That's my kind of immediate reaction. I got a number of different things, but I don't want to hog the mic here. What did you see? What were your takeaways? And I know you wrote a column overnight for CBSSports.com based on the Wildcats.
Yeah, let's focus on Kentucky for a second. They just hung in it the whole time. And, took advantage of the other team having a 17-year-old of its best player. I really do think it came down to that on some level. Malawach was cramping throughout the second half.
Which, by the way, has been it's
a thing at Duke, right?
Thing, which is weird. Flagg didn't have that issue in this game, but he had an issue in both previous games. And then Malawach had the cramping there, although he wasn't the only one. Lamont Butler cramped near the end of it. So some of it, you get up for a game like this, and it's like a super highly competitive, up and down, like awesome game. These could wind up being 2 of the 5 best teams in the country. We don't know. I get it on a certain level, but yeah, it's a weird pattern that developed.
Yeah, and John had publicly expressed some frustration about it in recent days connected to Flagg. Last night, Flagg wasn't the issue. It was Malawach, but still, like, one of their 5-star freshmen was, laying on the ground cramping. That's not ideal. Con Knippel was not, having his best night. He was 5 of 20 from the field. That's a guy who had played well in the season opener, had a great preseason, so much so that some have started suggesting, like, are we sure Cooper Flagg's the best player at Duke? Yeah, I think so. I think we're sure. All the NBA people seem to be pretty sure about it. College coaches seem to be pretty sure about it. But, he had been playing well enough to at least start that conversation. Last night was not the best example of that. So it looked like to me in the final minute, like Cooper Flagg was just trying to win, go win. He looked like he was playing for his main AAU team, and he was trying to go win a game because who else is going to win it if I don't?
I think that's a good way of putting it there. I do think Duke's, they don't have like a pure point guard, run the offense. And I think some of that reared its head a little bit. It's not the only reason. Duke was also not good whatsoever from 3-point range, which was another issue, but continue talking. But yeah, to your point, I agree entirely. It looked a lot like, okay, Cooper Flagg had done this in many other spots as a high school player, and here he was against Kentucky, and it didn't go the same exact way, which is no huge shock. He did a lot of amazing things, but you did see him going against guys who are 21, 22, 23 years old, and in a big spot late, even with Kentucky's players not being familiar with each other, having played in years and years. Kentucky certainly seemed more ready and built for that moment down late.
Obviously, in high school, he played with other talented guys, but on the grassroots level, he mostly didn't. And just he's been doing that for years, like 4 or 5 years. Like, okay, we need a bucket. We're in a game. I guess it's me. And that's what it looked like he was trying to do. The problem, of course, he was trying to do it last night against Kentucky and against, 4-year players and 5-year players and people 4 and 5 years older than him. And, it didn't end well, but he's fabulous. I mean, again, take everything you saw in the final 20 seconds, set it over here. And I know that determined the game on some level, so maybe not. But, like, he got 26 and 12 in the Champions Classic. He won't turn 18 until 4 days before Christmas. He's terrific, but it was a rough ending. I'm sure he'll benefit from it, learn from it, and be better going forward. With Kentucky, just a great night for the program. I couldn't be happier for Mark. I can't imagine what it's like to have that moment for your alma mater. Just first of all, to even be in this position. He helped someone a national championship in, April of '96, becomes the head coach at his alma mater in April of 2024. And here he is, like 9 days and 3 games into it, and he's got a massive victory over a fellow blue blood. And he did it in a way that the fan base just is going to so easily attach to. As I pointed out in the column, like I actually started the column by noting that, like, just 3 days ago, John Calipari was coaching a bunch of 5-star prospects in a neutral court game against a Big 12 team that had lost by 38 points to a West Coast Conference program earlier in the week. And, they took.
Hold on.
That's what happened. That's a fact.
I know, but come on. It's Gonzaga. I know they're in West Coast, but the way you're framing that, come on.
This is the way I have every disagreement with my. This is the way I have every disagreement with my wife. She'll say, "What are you even saying?" And I'll say, "Tell me the thing that I said that's untrue."
Yeah.
Highlight
it. Portland, which almost won at Oregon last night, by the way, on Tuesday. Come on now, you're not sneaking that past this goalie.
Hey, tell me the thing I said that's untrue. It was just 3 days ago, John Calipari was coaching against a Big 12 team that had previously lost to a West Coast Conference program by 38.
Yeah.
It's a fact.
Okay.
All right? They took 23 pointers. They made 5 of them. It was 1996 basketball and a poor percentage from 3. And here comes Kentucky with Mark Pope and a fresh approach. They can't match Arkansas player for player. They can't match Duke player for player. But 7 of the first 12 shots were threes. 5 of them went in, and we're off and running. And it was just fun, and they closed strong. And Mark did his best afterwards in his on-camera post-game interview to deflect and, give credit to the players and give credit to the program and give credit to the fans. But that was him. Those were his fingerprints all over that team. He wasn't, as I wrote, Mitch Barnhart's first choice, nor should he have been. He should not have been the first choice. But he does, as we're sitting here on November 13th, and really not just based on what happened last night, but based on nearly everything that's happened since he was hired. He wasn't their first choice, but he feels like the perfect choice. He's got good enough players, and he'll have better ones going forward, more talented ones going forward. He started from scratch. Like Eric Musselman left John Calipari more than John Calipari left Mark Pope, which isn't saying much, but like that's the truth. This guy started from scratch. He's got talented players. and they look like a real basketball team that's fun to watch, enjoyable to consume. That was a big night for the program, a big night for Mark, and the way he has made not only the in-state media most obviously Kentucky Sports Radio and everybody involved with that, but also just the fan base. He's made them feel like they matter again. Like, I don't want to spend much time just banging on John's head, but like John had got detached from all of that, and just it had gotten ugly and toxic, and that's all gone now. Like, last night was a celebration of Kentucky basketball, and from a distance, in my office, I had fun watching it.
Yeah, actually, on that note, Maggie Davis is a local reporter for BBN Tonight, and she took this video here. If you're watching on YouTube, you can check it out. This is Pope after the game. So the game has ended, and you can see all the Kentucky fans in the stands, and he's walking around, and he's, hugging people, giving handshakes and all that good stuff. And again, we're not going to bang all over Calipari's head or anything like that, but this is not a scene you would have seen with Calipari,
right.
And he does get it on a lot of levels. I mean, that was indicative of his first press conference once he got the job and all of that. But the fact that he did that, he kind of reiterated after the fact there how much this is about, the players and the fans. I get all that, but he's the head coach, so he's going to have some element of responsibility and credit that goes to that. And on that point, you mentioned Kentucky Sports Radio. Yeah, he did a post-game radio hit from the team bus afterward, which Matt Jones has hosted that radio program for well over a decade. It's the most listened to Kentucky sports entity in the state. It means a ton, and for a variety of reasons, Calipari and Matt Jones had no relationship in effect.
Because if you say one negative thing about John Calipari ever, you cease to have a relationship with him. That's the truth.
Yeah. So, and it's just it is what it is, and it was what it was, and that's done and over with. But the fact that now Kentucky fans can get that extra access to their coach is a significant thing. And then, as Pope revealed after the game on Tuesday, Duke had won 9 of the past 11 meetings between these two programs. And no, they don't meet every year, but they're guaranteed to meet at least once every 3 years. And it had been 9 years since Kentucky's fan base had experienced a victory over Duke. And that does mean something. These are the two most popular and polarizing programs in the sport. When they play each other, it means a very big deal. I don't know what the television number is. I guarantee you it's going to be a tremendous number based on a lot of factors there. But even beyond Cooper Flagg and all the hype, it's Duke versus Kentucky. They both had numbers next to their name and both had a lot going for them from a momentum standpoint heading into this game. Well, Pope revealed that he had showed his team the Duke wins over Kentucky, or the Kentucky wins over Duke in 78, in 92, and 1998, because, quote, he wanted them to know the history and what this game meant to Big Blue Nation, end quote. That's some pretty cool stuff. Kentucky had lost its previous 4 Champions Classic games. So it had been struggling against Duke. It had been struggling on this stage to start the season, its first big game of the season. And they come out and they get a win. And you had mentioned it, by the way, fashion, but I want to harp on this. They hung around, they fought, they were built for it. Duke did not go 10 deep in this game. Isaiah Evans, a freshman, didn't get on the floor. Darren Harris, a freshman, didn't get on the floor. Sion James left with something of a pinched shoulder issue. We'll wait and see what's more on that, but he wasn't available late. Malawatch was out for an extended period of time in the second half because of cramping there. In addition to Duke shooting 4 of 23, they just didn't look like they had enough charge in the battery late. Now, it's a narrow win, don't get me wrong, but when I was watching those final 3-4 minutes, Kentucky's bodies just seem fresh, ready to go. Because as Dan Schulman, fan of the pod, shouts to Dan, had mentioned on the broadcast, no matter the lineup Duke was putting on the floor on Tuesday, everyone was at least 6'5" or taller. Like, they're a very... this stuck out to me when I saw him in practice. It is a big team. Like, Duke, it has awesome athletes, big size, good shooting. I think if its defense really clicks, if they can really put it all together and stay healthy, I think Duke has a very good chance of being a top 3 defensive unit. However, even in spite of all that, because Kentucky truly can go, and I think Pope is going to aim for this, to go 10 deep, that mattered in this game. Duke was not able to do that. We saw how much Shire wound up pinching the bench, which is no huge deal. But in a game like this, where it can be physical, when Kentucky, I thought Kentucky, if it could have dictated the conversation, it wanted to make this a race to 85. It didn't go that way, and Kentucky was still able to adjust there. Impressive stuff, and yeah, very a morale boosting victory for Big Blue Nation. You see your team shoot 10 of 25 from 3-point range. It's not amazing, but it's certainly good enough in a spot like this there, and you get done on a big stage what you hope to see. Like, you bring in this cast of characters. None of them had played together before until this season, and Duke certainly delivered a few different kind of blows there, but they were able to get it done. I was impressed by Owe. I was impressed by, obviously, Andrew Carr, who had a couple of really nice moments down the stretch. The fact that Jackson Robinson had only 1 point in this game, Parrish, and wasn't a factor, and Kentucky still won, I think was a huge bonus there, because even like Amari Williams had a couple of nice moments. Kobe Brea got caught in some bad spots on defense, and it didn't really wind up costing Kentucky, but he had 8 points there. A little this, a little that. Kirk Risa only had 6 points, and one of them was a pretty big three that meant a lot down the stretch in the second half. That was big stuff. And then last from me here, Duke is about to turn into a big stretch here. They're going to play 4 ranked teams in a 6-game stretch. Kentucky was a loss. I'll be at the Arizona game next week. Then they've still got Kansas and Auburn waiting after that. So we're going to have plenty more to learn and see from this Duke team. They played a good game, not a great game. As I said on HQ on Tuesday night, the loss to me really doesn't mean much, frankly, from a Duke perspective. I thought the win was the way more significant and meaningful result in terms of what it relates to and how much it means for Kentucky than Duke taking the L in this one.
There's no question, and then we'll move on. The story was Kentucky. Duke wasn't perfect, but Duke is going to be fine. They're immensely talented. If anything, this might have been a statement on, where we're at in the sport. Coaches are constantly discussing this, like, what's better, being more talented or being older? And last night you had a perfect example of that. Like, it's pretty contrasting. The Duke is undeniably more talented, but way younger. Kentucky, not as talented, but way older. And neither team had played together much, right? Obviously, there's some guys at Duke who were there last year, there this year. At Kentucky, there's none of that. But UK didn't look disjointed, and I thought that was a huge positive sign.
Yes.
If you're Kentucky, like last season, we talked about it. When you brought in 7 or more Division I transfers, you weren't good. None of those teams were good. Nobody who did that last year was good. NC State's the only one that brought in 7+ Division I transfers and made the NCAA tournament, and they only made the NCAA tournament, as you know, because they won the ACC tournament 5 victories in 5 days. So teams built this way typically look like they're built this way, just thrown together, and nobody knows each other. It took LeBron, James, Chris Bosh, and Dwayne Wade a minute to figure it out, even their first year in Miami. So, like, what are 8 transfers at Arkansas supposed to do? But the Kentucky didn't look like a basketball team that had never played together, and that's a massive positive sign going forward. I moved them up, if you're curious. I had Kentucky unranked to start the season, but in my top 30, so like right there. But I know, I get it. I'm on the record. You could go look it up somewhere. But like, people don't care if you're 27th. They either see you or they don't. Right? You're either ranked. You're either ranked or you're not. I have not had Kentucky ranked. I did move them into the top 25 and one on Wednesday morning. All the way up to number 13, 1 spot behind Arizona. Ooh. Duke down to 14. They looked the part, and more than anything, I thought the story was Kentucky and Mark Pope, and just go back and think about where that fan base was to end last season, where that fan base was when they didn't hire Scott Drew, when they didn't hire Dan Hurley, when they didn't hire Billy Donovan. It was a bit of like, they're beating themselves up a little bit, and last night was the complete opposite of that. And as I close the column, that is at CBSSports.com. Tuesday night was a big night for Mark Pope, and I don't think it's crazy to think bigger nights are probably on the way.